Hello everyone, and welcome back to Rules as Written Character Builds. My name is Zach, and on this channel I make character builds for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, aiming to strike a balance between theme and combat capability. I was sick last week, so I missed my Monday upload. Thank you everybody for the well wishes for my health. I'm feeling a lot better, and also for still sticking around and viewing videos on the channel. Sorry I missed an upload, but this week we're diving right back in. 2 weeks ago, at WM David Hamilton commented on my Better Beastmaster video and requested that I make an Echo Knight build. I'd heard of the hype about the Echo Knight for years, but I'd never actually built one, so I thought that per David's request, I should give it a try. My hang-up was that I'd never really found a way to justify the theme of summoning a shadowy copy of yourself. I'd always ask myself, where does this power come from? How did my character learn it? Things like that. Battle Masters, Champions, these subclasses are very easy to justify. You just trained and you gained your abilities. But Echo Knight always felt different to me, so I stayed away from it despite its popularity. But after reading David's comment, I started thinking, what if the Echo is actually a different being entirely? One who occupies your mind and can temporarily manifest itself into the real world to aid you in combat. This got me thinking about Kalishtar, a species from Eberron, humans whose minds have been melded with renegade spirits from the Plane of Dreams. I had played this species before, and I really liked the aesthetic. Even if you aren't in Eberron, you can twist the flavor a little bit. Maybe your character picked up a sentient sword and it melded with your mind, or maybe you had an entity implanted in your mind to improve your combat capabilities, something like Master Chief or Cortana, or even now as I'm recording, that could kind of justify a Baldur's Gate 3 character with the parasite in your mind. So along that line of thinking, I was reminded of another video game duo that share a body. And so today we are going to be recreating the protagonist from one of the most enjoyable action RPG franchises I've ever played, Shadow of Mordor. That's right, today we are making the Ranger Captain of Gondor, Talion. We're going to be taking Echo Knight and adding in a dash of Gloomstalker Ranger to give us both the Ranger side, because he's a Ranger Captain, and the Shadow side. We're also going to throw in some Monk. I love Monk. It improves your action economy, your defense, your offense, and we're going to be going with Kensei Monk to grab ourselves the ability to use longswords with dexterity. If we're making a Lord of the Rings character, we have got to use longswords, and this is going to be a dex build. So without further ado, let's bring the Shadow of Mordor into 2024 Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So our species, of course, we're going to be going with Kalishtar. This is a pretty bare-bones race compared to the 2024 races. No extra spells, no limited use features, but they do get 2 really great abilities to showcase the extra mental fortitude granted by 2 minds housing a single body. Dual Mind, you have advantage on all wisdom saving throws, and Mental Discipline, you have resistance to psychic damage. These are really handy. Definitely one of the best instances of resistance built into a species. For our ability scores, we'll want a good dexterity and constitution, since our Echo Knight abilities scale off of Con. We also need a decent wisdom for our multi-class requirements. Strength of 8, dexterity of 15, constitution 14, intelligence 10, wisdom 14, and charisma 10. I like not having any negatives in our mental stats for this one. It is a shame to dump strength, but we're going to get plenty from dexterity to make up for it. For our background, take Knight of the Order. We are a captain of the Gondor Rangers, so this fits. Again, this isn't a player's handbook background, so we're free to assign our ability scores and our origin feats however we want. +2 to Constitution, +1 to Dexterity, making both a 16. For our origin feat, we're going to take Magic Initiate Wizard, choosing Wisdom for our spellcasting ability modifier. For our 2 cantrips, take Green Flame Blade and Prestidigitation. I like Prestidigitation for snuffing out campfires, so we can better sneak up on orcs, even though we're not going to start this build with Dark Vision. And also, because of how we're taking our class levels, we're not going to be getting extra attack until later than level 5, so I thought we should grab Green Flame Blade just to tide us over in the interim there. From level 5 onward, we'll get that extra fire damage on a hit, and we'll be able to leap that fire to a second target, so it'll sort of feel like having extra attack. And for our first level spell, take Mage Armor. Now this might seem like a weird pick for Talion, because in the game you get all sorts of cool suits of armor, but I don't plan on increasing our wisdom with this build, so it's going to stay at a +2, and since we won't be able to wear armor as a monk, 13 plus dex is going to be better than our unarmored defense. So this is purely a mechanical choice to make sure that we have a decent armor class. Now let's take a look at the roadmap. I was really torn on what path to take with this build. I wanted to get Echo Knight as soon as possible, and then it made more thematic sense to get Gloomstalker next. However, mechanically, we get a lot from getting monk levels really early. And then we need to secure extra attack as soon as possible so our damage doesn't fall off. So in the end, I settled on the following. We're going to start off in Fighter at Fighter 1. Levels 2 through 4, Monk. Levels 1 through 3. 5 through 8 will be Fighter 2 through 5. 9 through 11 is going to be Ranger 1 through 3. And then 12 through 18 is Fighter 6 through 12. 19 is Monk 4, and 20 is Ranger 4. So this one's a bit wonky, but I wanted to secure all of the mundane abilities from Fighter and Monk before we started getting these supernatural abilities from Echo Knight and Gloomstalker. That way we could mirror Talion's storyline of being a mundane ranger before his death and subsequent possession by Celebrimbor. Fighter level 1 gets us a fighting style, weapon mastery, and second wind. For our fighting style, grab dueling. This gives an extra 2 damage to all of our one-handed melee attacks while we aren't wielding a weapon or shield in the other hand. Fighter 3 gets us 3 weapon masteries. Talion fights with a longsword, a longbow, and a broken sword, which he wields like a dagger. He wields the longsword in his main hand. For now, as we are a dexterity build, we won't be able to do this, but eventually we will thanks to Kensei Monk. For now, just use a short sword instead. Masteries can be swapped out on long rests, so once we reach Kensei Monk, swap the short sword mastery for longsword. So at this point, you're going to be taking mastery in short sword, longbow, and dagger. Short swords give us Vex. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to the creature, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. Longbows grant slow. If you hit a creature with this weapon and deal damage to it, you can reduce its speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. If the creature is hit more than once by weapons that have this property, the speed reduction does not exceed 10 feet. And daggers grant Nick. When you make the extra attack of the light property, you can make it as part of the attack action instead of as a bonus action. You can make this extra attack only once per turn. With this setup, we could potentially dual wield with the short sword and the dagger. That's not very Talion, but it is more effective with our current capabilities. So if you want to go that route, instead take the 2-weapon fighting style to add your ability modifier to that dagger Nick attack. You can swap your fighting styles each time you gain a fighter level, and then grab dueling later on once we can use our longsword effectively. Now, with our 1-level fighter out of the way, we're going to step into Monk for a while to weaponize our bow in this action, get a great defensive reaction, and get our dexterity-based longsword attacks. Monk levels 1 through 3 is going to grant us martial arts, Monk's Focus, Deflect Attacks, and Way of the Kensei. Martial Arts makes us a classic Monk, letting us use our dexterity for hit and damage rolls with all Monk weapons and unarmored strikes, granting us a bonus action unarmed strike, and making our unarmed and Monk weapons deal 1d6 damage. The dagger is a Monk weapon, so our broken sword gets a damage buff. Monk's Focus is the focus point system, patient defense, step of the wind, flurry of blows. Since we're delaying extra attack until level 8, Flurry of Blows is going to come in handy when we need that extra damage. At Monk level 3, we are going to get one of my favorite features from the new rule set, Deflect Attacks. When an attack roll hits you and its damage includes bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, you can take a reaction to reduce the attack's total damage against you. The reduction equals 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier and Monk level. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can expend 1 focus point to redirect the attack. If you do so, choose a creature you can see within 5 feet of yourself if the attack was a melee attack, or within 60 feet if the attack was a ranged attack. That creature must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts dice plus your dexterity modifier. The damage is the same type dealt by the attack. This used to be deflect missiles, but now it works on anything bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. This is basically the counter ability from Shadow of Mordor, or more famously from Assassin's Creed. We also get our subclass at this level, Way of the Kensei. First and foremost, this lets us choose 2 types of weapons to be our Kensei weapons, 1 melee and 1 ranged weapon. Each of these weapons can be any simple or martial weapon that lacks the heavy and special properties. The longbow is also a valid choice. You gain proficiency with these weapons if you don't already have it. Weapons of the chosen type are Monk weapons for you. For us, we're going to be choosing the longsword and the longbow. Now we can finally dexterously use a longsword in combat. All this multiclassing just for that, but I cannot separate Talion from longswords in my mind. So if you're fine with a short sword Talion, maybe you don't take these Kensei levels. We get a lot otherwise. Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, Deflect Attacks. But for me, Talion must be using a longsword, so that's why we're here. We also get 2 features that can be used with our Monk weapons. Agile Parry. If you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action on your turn and are holding a Kensei weapon, you can use it to defend yourself if it is a melee weapon. You gain a +2 bonus to armor class until the start of your next turn, while the weapon is in your hand and you aren't incapacitated. Kensei Shot. You can use a bonus action on your turn to make your ranged attacks with a Kensei weapon more deadly. When you do so, any target you hit with a ranged attack using a Kensei weapon takes an extra 1d4 damage of the weapon's type. You retain this benefit until the end of your current turn. Agile Parry is really fun. At this level, we don't have extra attack, but once we do, swapping a D8 sword attack for a D6 unarmed strike and getting a +2 to our armor class is, and if you've played Shadow of Mordor, Talion loves punching those orcs. Like, there are so many combat animations. That's one sword slash and an uppercut, or like he grabs them in a headlock. Like, he's always manhandling his enemies, so this is going to fit our aesthetic. Kensei shot is also nice, since at range we won't be using our bonus action for unarmed strikes, and once we start taking these fighter levels, and especially once we get Echo Knight, we're going to be making a bunch of attacks, so adding a d4 to each one is pretty good. Now that we can use our longsword, make sure to swap your weapon mastery over on your next long rest to take advantage of the longsword's sap property. If you hit a creature with this weapon, the creature has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the start of your next turn. So that was character level 4. We're now going to head back to Fighter until level 8 to secure our subclass and extra attack. Fighter levels 2 through 5 will get us Action Surge, the Echo Knight subclass, an ability score improvement, and extra attack. Action Surge is a classic, awesome fighter feature. I like how many short rest features we have right now. Second Wind, Action Surge, and all of our focus points. Man, it is so hard not to call them key points, but in 2024, they are focus points. Anyway, this is the level I imagine Talion as when the game begins. 2 levels fighter, 3 levels monk. He's still a living ranger, stationed at the Black Gate with his wife and son. He's skilled with a longsword and a longbow. He's a dexterous fighter, he has a good defensive fighting style, and he's able to push himself in a fight with Action Surge and Flurry of Blows. Character level 6 is when things start to get supernatural. This is when he's first bonded with Celebrimbor. Now we're getting our subclass, Echo Knight. The first feature at this level is Manifest Echo. This is how we bring Celebrimbor into the world to aid us and fight at our side. At 3rd level, you can use a bonus action to magically manifest an echo of yourself in an unoccupied space you can see within 15 feet of you. The echo is a magical, translucent gray image of you that lasts until it is destroyed, until you dismiss it as a bonus action, until you manifest another echo, or until you're incapacitated. Your echo has an armor class of 14 plus your proficiency bonus, 1 hit point, and immunity to all conditions. If it has to make a saving throw, it uses your saving throw bonus for the roll. It is the same size as you, and it occupies its space. On your turn, you can mentally command the echo to move up to 30 feet in any direction, no action required. If your echo is ever more than 30 feet from you at the end of your turn, it is destroyed. But the echo isn't just here to stand around. There's some utility that we can do as well. As a bonus action, you can teleport, magically swapping places with your echo at the cost of 15 feet of movement, regardless of the distance between the two of you. When you take the attack action on your turn, any attack you make with that action can originate from your space or the echo's space. You can make this choice for each attack. When a creature that you can see within 5 feet of your echo moves at least 5 feet away from it, you can use your reaction to make an opportunity attack against that creature as if you were in the echo's space. This position swap is especially nice. This is effectively a resource-free Misty Step, as long as our Echo is already manifested. And we also get Unleash Incarnation, the ability that everybody talks about when it comes to the Echo Knight. At 3rd level, you can heighten your Echo's Fury. Whenever you take the attack action, you can make 1 additional melee attack from the Echo's position. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Constitution modifier, a minimum of once. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. At this point, my favorite thing to do with Celebrimbor would be to manifest him somewhere on the high ground and then let him rain arrows down, using Unleash Incarnation to get extra shots in, and you can throw Action Surge in there too. This isn't limited to once per round, so if we do Action Surge, we can Unleash Incarnation twice in the same turn. Fighter level 4 is going to grab us an ability score improvement, and I really don't think this build needs a specific feat, but what we do want to do is max out our Dexterity and our Constitution for better attacks and for more uses of Unleash Incarnation. So increase your Dexterity to 18 for the +4 modifier. Character level 8, Fighter level 5 finally gets us extra attack. We had to wait a while, but now we can make 3 attacks per turn using our extra attack and our martial arts bonus action attack. If we burn an Unleash Incarnation and a Flurry of Blows, that'll be 5 attacks. And we can go a step further by using an Action Surge and our Unleash Incarnation twice for a total of 8 attacks. 3 with each action, thanks to attack, extra attack, Unleash Incarnation, doubled thanks to Action Surge, and then 2 on our Flurry of Blows for a total of 8. Now that we've gained so much additional combat power, let's head into Ranger for a bit to pick up Gloomstalker. Ranger levels 1 through 3 will grant us Weapon Mastery, Favorite Enemy, Deft Explorer, Fighting Style, and the Gloomstalker subclass. We're going to get 2 more weapon masteries here. I would at least take the light hammer, since Celebrimbor loves to beat on orcs with his smithing hammer. Aside from that, pick up another one that you like. Light hammer also has the nick property, so if you want to, you can dual wield. I would also consider using a short sword instead of the dagger and flavoring it as the broken sword that Talion has. As long as the flavor's there, use daggers or short swords. Short swords have the Vex property, which would be more effective than using the dagger, since our light hammer is going to have nicks. Then you can do Vex and Nick, which is a classic 2024 dual wielder combo. Now, favored enemy is a feature that we get right now. It gives us 2 free casts of Hunter's Mark per long rest, making as many attacks as we do with martial arts, extra attack, Unleash Incarnation, Action Surge. We are a perfect fit for the additional damage from Hunter's Mark. If we throw Hunter's Mark on a creature and then on that next turn burn all of our resources, 8 attacks, all of them with an extra d6. Ranger, level 2, gets us another fighting style. I would pick up Archery to improve our range attacks. Now we'll have Archery and Dueling. Deft Explorer lets us choose between expertise in one of our skills or 2 languages of our choice. Since we're about to take Gloomstalker, I'd say take expertise in Stealth. And then character level 11, Ranger level 3, gets us Gloomstalker, which gives us 3 features. Ambusher's Leap. At the start of your first turn of combat, your speed increases by 10 feet until the end of that turn. Frighten. Once per turn, when you attack a creature and hit it with a weapon, you can deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage to the target and force it to make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, it has the Frighten condition until the start of your next turn. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And finally, initiative bonus. When you roll initiative, you can add your wisdom modifier to the roll. This isn't quite as nice as the old Gloomstalker that gave us an extra attack on that first round. However, the Frighten condition is pretty fitting for Talion and Celebrimbor, as they're always giving orcs nightmares. And at getting to add that extra 2d6 psychic damage is pretty good. We also get Umbral Sight. You gain dark vision out to a range of 60 feet. If you already have dark vision, when you gain this feature, its range increases by 60 feet. You're also adept at evading creatures that rely on dark vision. While entirely in darkness, you have the invisible condition to any creature that relies on dark vision to see you in that darkness. This is extremely fitting. Shadow of Mordor is full of stealth elements, and orcs have dark vision, so negating that benefit is really nice. This is also why I wanted to take Prestidigitation, so we can snuff out campfires and then ambush the creatures left in the darkness. That's it for Ranger for now. Let's head back to Fighter for the majority of the build to keep picking up Echo Knight features and eventually pick up that sweet Fighter level 11, 2 extra attacks. Fighter levels 6 through 11 will grab us an ability score improvement, Echo Avatar, another ability score improvement, Tactical Master, Shadow Martyr, 2 extra attacks, and ability score improvement. Again, with our ability score improvements, we really want to max out Dex and Con, so put a +2 into Dexterity, making it 20. Echo Avatar. Starting at 7th level, you can temporarily transfer your consciousness to your Echo. As an action, you can see through your Echo's eyes and hear through its ears. During this time, you are deafened and blinded. You can sustain this effect for up to 10 minutes, and you can end it at any time. Requires no action. While your Echo is being used in this way, it can be up to 1,000 feet away from you without being destroyed. This is a great scouting ability. Send your Echo almost a quarter mile away, check things out, and then come back to your body when you're finished. Keep in mind that the Echo only has 1 hit point, so it'll be destroyed if an enemy even looks in its direction. Fighter level 8, character level 14 gets us another ability score improvement. We'll now increase our Con by +2 up to 18, giving us another use of our Unleash Incarnation. The Fighter level 9 feature, Tactical Master, is pretty cool. When you attack with a weapon whose mastery property you can use, you can replace that property with the Push, Sap, or Slow property for that attack. So Sap does not stack. Attacking a target 6 times with a longsword doesn't do anything for us mastery-wise. So definitely swap it out for Push and Slow after you apply that Sap if you're going against a single target. Shadow Martyr. Starting at 10th level, you can make your Echo throw itself in front of an attack directed at another creature that you can see. Before the attack roll is made, you can use your reaction to teleport the Echo to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the targeted creature. The attack roll that triggered the reaction is instead made against your Echo. Once you use this feature, you cannot use it again until you finish a short or long rest. Very nice way to save a party member. However, it's pretty out of character for Celebrimbor. I doubt he would go out of his way to save anyone. This happens before the attack roll is made, and our Shadow has an armor class of 19 at this point. You might not even get hit, and you can still block the attack. Finally, character level 17, fighter level 11, we get 2 extra attacks. This is what we wanted here. This is why we went so many levels in fighter. Now we can make 3 attacks per action, 4 if we use Unleash Incarnation, 8 if we use both Unleash Incarnation twice and Action Surge, and 10 if we throw a flurry of blows in there as a bonus action. That's just unbelievable. 10 attacks. Our last fighter level snags us an ability score improvement, and we'll max out our constitution for the hit points and, of course, the extra Unleash Incarnation charge. Now we're level 18, and our last 2 levels are going to Monk 4 and Ranger 4 for another ability score improvement from each. Kind of fun how our last 3 levels are all ability score improvements. So those last 2 ability score improvements will be epic boons. It doesn't really matter which class you take first, but I'm going to take Monk first for the extra focus point. Let's grab Boon of the Night Spirit. Increase 1 ability score of your choice by 1 to a maximum of 30. While within dim light or darkness, you can give yourself the invisible condition as a bonus action. This condition ends on you immediately after you take an action, a bonus action, or a reaction. While within dim light or darkness, you have resistance to all damage except psychic and radiant. Increase your dexterity to 21. I thought about doing con instead for these 2 epic boons for the extra Unleash Incarnation charge, but with all the attacks we make, I'd rather have a +1 to damage and hit. Merge with Shadows is kind of nice, but we're already invisible in darkness thanks to Umbral Sight. But what I really like here is Shadowy Form. We have a good deal of hit points thanks to our 20 con, and our Ranger and our Fighter D10 hit dice. Plus, we are resistant to psychic damage thanks to Kalashtar. So while in darkness, it's only going to be radiant damage that gets through. Next, we'll take Boon of Irresistible Offense for our level 20 ability score improvement. Increase your strength or dexterity score by 1 to a maximum of 30. The bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage you deal always ignores resistance. When you roll a 20 on the d20 for an attack roll, you can deal extra damage to the target equal to the ability score increased by this feat. The extra damage's type is the same as the attack's type. Increase your dexterity to 22, getting the +6 modifier. This feat is just more damage, and with up to 10 attacks per turn, I think we'll be getting a critical hit, or maybe even 2. Always great to ignore resistance. So yeah, that's the build, everybody. Whew, that was a long one. A lot of multi-classing, a lot of different features, but I think they come together for a pretty cohesive image of our character here. This is clearly a damage build. We have a bunch of extra attacks here thanks to Monk, Fighter, and Action Surge. Aside from the unarmed strikes on our bonus action, all of this damage can be done at range with our longbow, which we have the mastery for, and eventually we'll have the fighting style. And what's nice is this damage doesn't require much setup. It takes a bonus action to manifest the echo, but it has no duration, so you can summon your echo ahead of time and just keep it around all day until it, trips and loses its 1 hit point or something. And a bonus action for Hunter's Mark, that isn't really a core feature for us, more like a little add-on for some single target damage. But that's not only our strength, we're not exclusively an archer. Our defense is really good thanks to deflect attacks, agile parry, and our high dexterity. And while everybody loves the extra attacks from Echo Knight, the subclass also brings some of the best mobility and escape potential of any fighter subclass. Getting to swap places with our Echo as a bonus action means it is incredibly easy to escape grapples, area of effects, reach high ground, chase enemies, the whole 9 yards. One of my favorite examples I saw someone mention is looking through a keyhole, spawning your Echo inside the locked room, and then swapping places with it. So there's some solid infiltration potential here as well. High dexterity and expertise in stealth also makes us pretty great at sneaking around. Our one blank spot here is support. We're not really built for assisting allies, but we're not totally incapable. With our ranger spells, we can heal, and with Shadow Martyr, we can eat an attack for an ally. The one downside people might see is that we are a bit bonus action heavy. Monk's focused, Manifest Echo, Martial Arts, Hunter's Mark, but I don't necessarily see this as a weakness. This is just more versatility. And some of these are limited use, so when we run out of spell slots or focus points, we'll always have an option for our bonus action. I think this build would really appeal to someone who loves a versatile damage dealer. Do you want to rain arrows from afar? Talion can do it. Do you want to get in close and hack and slash and punch? Talion can do it. Do you want to sneak around and get the drop on enemies using the shadows to your advantage? Again, Talion can do it. Thanks for tuning in. This build was a whole lot of fun for me. I feel like I really got to discover the Echo Knight for the first time, which I hadn't really given much thought of over the years. So I had a great time. Let me know what you thought of the build in the comments down below. Big thanks to WM David Hamilton for recommending the Echo Knight build. Let me know if y'all have any other suggestions that you want me to check out. I always have a great time discovering new things if y'all are the ones who bring it to me. Because if you guys don't say anything, I'm just going to keep making fighters and monks. So, oh, this was a fighter monk. Anyway, give me your suggestions. I love checking them out. Subscribe for more Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition content, and come back next week for another original character build. I've been doing a lot of multi-classes lately. This build, the Better Beastmaster Ranger, they each had 3 classes. Astarion was split pretty heavily between Bard and Rogue, so I'm going to rein it back next week, and I'm going to do a pure Cleric. We're going to be making a heavy armor, fire giant Forge Cleric, going for like an ancient weaponsmith aesthetic. So tune in if you want to check that out. See everybody next week.